I'm compelled by Schlock.
Well, happy Schlockoween, everybody. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and this is Chris Anonymous with me, above me or beside me, whichever ways that. There you are, Chris. Chris, what is up? It's Halloween. Well, it's Halloween right now. When the majority of people are watching this, it is post-Halloween. But
tomorrow?
It comes out tomorrow, yes.
So happy Halloween. Enjoy watching it on the Day of the Dead.
Ooh, yes. Happy Dia de los Muertos. Yeah. So, well, Chris, have you gotten any trick-or-treaters yet?
I think
do they do that where you're
two
from?
Or three. Yeah, 2 or 3. You know. But,
all right.
Just
nice.
Everyone, I don't know. It seems like everyone goes downtown anymore.
Yeah, we don't have them. Not really. I think trunk or treating is overtaking like the neighborhood trick or treating, because apparently it's safer to get candy from the psychopaths there than the psychopaths like in town. Or
as long as I'm getting candy from a psychopath, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah. Hey man, when I was a kid,
camper.
The nursing home did it. And so we'd go to a nursing home, and that was like the place you either started the night or ended the night, because like you knew you would get a huge haul. So
yeah, nothing scarier than that.
But anyway, it is Halloween. It's Schlockoween, and
what do you got? What are we doing?
Well, I picked a movie that I thought was an American cult classic. I don't think it is, because after I watched it, I'm like trying to research information about it, find out, kind of the trivia about it. And all that I really got is that it's called American Gothic, and most of it is filmed in Canada.
Yeah. And I hadn't heard of the film before. I assume there was a horror movie with that name, because that makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it came out in 1988. It had a home release, and I think this was actually the UK title. It was Hide and Shriek, which I think is a good name. And
Hide and Shriek, I like that better. That fits more than American Gothic.
I think so too, and I think we'll get into that a little bit later. But so. Yeah, I really don't have much of an intro, so I'm going to tell everybody the way we do the show is we talk about the good, the bad, and the schlock. Good, what we liked, what we didn't like, and the bad. The schlock is really kind of like, what's our overall take on these movies? Yeah, like what are they about? What's the weird, wacky stuff in them? And this movie definitely has some pretty like weird, wacky stuff in it. But we also like to talk about what we call the web of schlock. And I think this movie has a pretty thick web, even though there might not be a lot of love for this movie, which it's a cult classic for me, for sure.
This was your first viewing?
This is my second viewing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually grew up seeing this is one of the many horror movies that I saw like the video packaging for in the video store. And I always thought like, oh man, that looks so crazy.
The idea of cult classics versus like your childhood, especially people our age, slightly younger, slightly older, with the video store influence, right?
Yeah.
You went there and you saw posters and you didn't know if it was an A-list movie or a D-list movie.
Right. No idea.
You had no, you were a kid.
If it's on the new release rack, right, then
it's fair game.
It must be a popular
yeah, these people
movie.
are making movies, so they must be super rich and super famous.
Right. And I didn't see this movie when I was a kid. I saw it when I was an adult.
But you saw the poster of it or the box, right? And that's enough to like stick in your mind. Like that existed then, so it must have been a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this movie maybe not very well received, but the cast in it
Yeah,
they're
let's get into the Web
they're
of
pretty
Schlock.
thick. They're pretty
Yeah.
thick. So let's hear about the Web of Schlock.
Let's start, before we get into the actors, let's start with the director. John Howe? Not sure. He did a lot of work in television, 60s, 70s, 80s, into the 90s. After this, he went on to do The Howling Four. You know, he's had his hand in Schlock. He did The Incubus, I think Legend of Hell House. But here's the thing that like stuck out to me is he did the 60s, 70s, like at least to me, they're Disney cult classics, Escape to and Return from Witch Mountain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm like, man, that's interesting to think that he did both.
I've never seen those. I know that those are like pretty classic movies. How would you compare this to that?
This is not as good. But it's not the directing. It's not the directing that's worse. It's the writing. But we'll get into that. The actors. Well, you know what? I getting into bad just a little bit. We'll stay in Web of Schlock, but I hated the yuppie 20-something-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And their acting. But the siblings and the parents, man.
That's the meat and potatoes.
That's the meat and potatoes. Yeah. That's where it shines. So if we want to do Ma and Pa, we got Pa, Rod Steiger. Again, sorry if I'm butchering the name.
It's okay. I think everyone in the family, they've all passed on at this point in time.
Well, rest in peace. He was on the waterfront in the heat of the night, Duck You Sucker. And I think his last movie was the year he died, which was 2002, was Pool Hall Junkies. I mean, he has just been in classics. Yeah. He's been in Schlock. He's been in just mid-level movies. He's a guy, once you see him, you're like, okay, what did I see him in?
Right.
He's that I love character actors that you like. You can't quite place them, but it takes you a minute or two and you're like, oh yeah, I love that guy in that. The Ma, Yvonne De Carlo.
Yeah.
She was in the Ten Commandments, Crisscross. Just again,
and maybe most notably, the Munsters.
Yep.
She's Lily Munster, and that was a big find for me because I had just watched Rob Zombie's The Munsters.
Quick take on that. How was it?
If you liked live action, goofy Saturday morning cartoons as a kid, you might. So if you liked the Munsters,
then I got it. Yeah, and
not if you like the Munsters.
Okay.
If you like Beetleborgs.
Okay. Wow. All right. I stand corrected.
But so yeah, I just watched that, and so I was watching some other things about the Munsters and watched some old episodes.
You can see it in her face. Yeah.
Well, I didn't recognize her at first. I was like, "Who is this? Who is this? She looks so familiar."
Again, it's that thing. And then we have the children. Let's the main one is Michael J. Pollard, or Woody. I think we have a picture of Woody. And again, one of those character actors that just has a memorable face and delivery and just style of acting. He was in other schlocky stuff like Sleepaway Camp 3. He was in Scrooged, Roxanne, Dick Tracy, Tango and Cash. Just so many movies.
Some super classics.
Yeah, just a fun presence. Then you have the other brother, Teddy, William Hootkins, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. He was Eckhart in the first Batman. Yep. I loved him as Eckhart in Batman.
The henchman, right?
Yep. So just again, it's one of those actors where you've seen him, and you're like, where is he? And then you're like, yeah, that movie. That's what I remember from. I love him in that. And then Fanny, the last one, Janet Wright. She again did a lot of work. She doesn't quite have as many of like the classics in her.
I think she did a lot of sitcoms.
A lot of sitcoms. Yeah. She was in The Perfect Storm, Rollerball, just a bunch of different things. A lot of sitcoms before that. Erie, Indiana. She was definitely a standout in this, though. Like, looking through all the things she's done, a lot of it I haven't seen. A lot of I've seen, but it's such a bit part. But if you really want to watch, I think this is her performance.
Yeah,
Like,
for
you're
sure.
like, okay, what's the Janet Wright performance? It's Fanny in American Gothic. Do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. But that does lead me straight into my good. And my biggest good for this movie is the cast, the family. Like you said, I didn't care so much for the victims, but the family, they're just so weird. And I think they really tie the movie together. And I wish that more had been done with them. But they're a creepy family, and I have to give it to this movie that it's not like a typical slasher.
It's not. No.
Like it has the adornings of a slasher, right? Like out in the woods, right? It's very Camp Crystal Lake-esque,
right?
But really, it's more akin to something like Psycho, maybe, right? Where like this weird incestuous family dynamic, and you just don't know what's going on with these people, and it reveals itself more and more. I think that maybe could have been done better. But like, as like the kids keep showing up one after another, like first it's just the parents, and then it's like the 50-year-old
Fanny,
daughter,
and then it was Woody, and then it was Teddy.
Yeah, and so I really got to give them credit for kind of doubling down onto that and taking it into a place that I don't know I've really seen in a lot of movies like this. So I got to give them props for that. The biggest thing in it that I think is like just super uber duper creepy, that just pushes this movie into the next level. And like I said, for me, it's a cult classic because I just thought this was so bonkers. But the baby, and I don't know like how touchy of a subject this is, so I tried to get a picture of it that like isn't terribly offensive. But Fanny has the mummified baby, and they show it full bore. Like, I feel like if you saw something now, they would be really coy about it and really hide it and play more on the psychological aspect of oh, there's a dead baby here. But man, they slowly reveal it, and by the end they like have it just out in the open and they're wrestling over it, and I'm just like, oh man, this is like just so incredibly morbid. Like they went there. And something you talk about a lot is, you know, these movies we see, they try out different concepts, and you really want to see them, like, if they're going to go for it, then they just got to go for it. They just got to pedal to the metal on it.
Right.
And I think they did that with this whole dead baby thing. And it's gross and it's morbid and it makes my skin crawl and
like a good horror movie.
Like a good horror movie. And that's what I'm looking for. Like I said, the cast I think was great, but it leads me into my bad, which is the yuppies, right? I didn't really know what they were supposed to be. Like our main characters, they're married and have had a child they've had a child. I don't know if they're tragically married. Passed away. I think they're married. I think he has a ring on his finger.
Okay.
Well, so there is the question when like they're getting ready to spend the night at Ma and Pa's place, and they're like, "Wait, are you hitched? Hitched? Are you married?" And he's like getting all angry about it, and why they didn't just lie and be like, "Yep, we're married." I don't know, but that was a weird part, because I was like, well, aren't they married? He's got a ring on his wedding finger. But that whole dynamic with the kids, I didn't know. One, they looked 40. I think I think they were like late 20s, early 30s was like what they were going for. Like, yeah, well, the actors, I think, were all in their 20s, like in real life.
It felt like Wall Street yuppies from the 80s, like going to some resort island or something.
I just got a text from Megan, and she said that they said that they were going to their honeymoon place. That's what the trip was. They were going to their honeymoon
so then
spot.
we stand corrected. So those two were married.
But yeah, so they were like young professionals, yuppies, but they acted like they're stand-ins for the teenage slasher victims, you know, like, were. And they had those attitudes. One of the girls I think has like a Letterman's jacket or something.
Yeah, the discrepancy between who they were and how they acted was severe and bizarre, and I hated it. And the way they acted, like I just hated it because they're just incredibly unlikable. And the thing is, in horror movies, you want your victims to be unlikable, right? Because you want to see them, you know, get their up and comings. But I just don't think that it worked for this movie. No, did not the way they break into Ma and Pa's house and just start rifling through their stuff. And then they're just so incredibly rude. Sense. Yeah. And then after they show up, they keep exploring the house. Like, who would do that? No one would do that. Like, oh, I'm going to go wander around your basement now. Yeah. No, you wouldn't. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just such an odd dynamic that I can't get into it. The ending. So after the what's our main gal's name? Cynthia. Cynthia. Yeah. Once she like goes crazy, the movie keeps going to where she finally goes extra crazy and kills the family. And there's a part of me that's like, I like what I'm seeing, but also I sort of feel like this movie is going on, like it's out, the premise has outworn its welcome in some ways. Like they could have just maybe restructured this a lot better. And again, going with the ending at how easy she kills the family. She just, you know, stabs them with needles and stuff. I'm just like, why was it so hard for these young, able-bodied people to outwit these like overweight, inbred country bumpkins, right? Like we have the one girl, Terry, I think her name is, who's the fighter. And I said I have a picture of it called Taking Action, where she takes the flare gun and she holds up Fanny with it. And I like for me, this gal, she was the protagonist. I was like, yes, this person I'm on board with because she's taking action. She's looking to like solve the problem, right? We're gonna hold them up and get off the for the most part. She acted the most believable in these situations, and again, probably because she's taking action. Well, not super believable until they like get to the boat and they find their friend dead in the boat, and then I don't know what she does. She's just like and shoots off the flare gun into nowhere, nothing. Yeah. Right. I just get on the boat. I'm like, good. Right. My friend's body. You have oars. Yeah. Like it makes no sense. Yeah. I mean, so that part was hard for me to watch. I guess I was just like, come on. So, and the last bad that I have, and then you can have your firing squad at this movie. So like I said, the poster is super iconic, the imagery for it. I don't feel like this movie lived up to that. I think Hide and Shriek would have been better. Yes, it's based on this famous painting here, which we'll talk about in Schlock. And I don't think that it lived up to that. I think it lived up to the name Hide and Shriek. I think it lived up to that, but not American Gothic. Yeah, no. Okay. So Chris, hit me up. I'll shut my mouth. I'm gonna start with bad and then go to good. Okay. Overacting, bad acting, bad writing, unbelievable characters. Especially the victims. I call them the yuppies. I don't know what they are. Their character, their action, their motivation, everything about them was just bizarre and unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And like, why are you doing that? Well, because we need to move this scene forward. It made no sense. You brought up that thing where they're okay. You go into an abandoned place and you're messing around with stuff, and then the owners show up. You're like, "Oh, my bad." You should, and they're all apologetic at first, and then they just flip, and then they're like really rude, and they're going around like exploring the house still, and they're smoking, and like they're making fun of them. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
The fact that they don't go down and get their friend who's waiting at the boat or at the airplane boat.
Right. They spend the night there, and they're never like, we need to go tell our friend.
He probably thought they fell in some like crevice and all died or something. Like, makes no sense. I mean,
sorry, I'll butt in. There is a shot in there that I think is absolutely hilarious. It's where Jeff, he goes and talks to Pa. Pa's like sawing a log. Or something, and he's like, "So when's your friend gonna come?" And he's like, "Oh, he might come today." Right. And then they cut the scene, and then they go on to whatever else, Fanny playing with Cynthia, and Lynn being a total bitch, and then they spend the night again.
So it's 2 nights,
and we don't see Jeff or Pa in that amount of time, and then it's the next morning, and we see them wearing the exact same clothes in the exact same position. And he's like, "So when's your friend coming?" "Well, it could be today." Like, you can tell that they totally just kept the camera rolling and say, "Do it again." And that just cracked me up big time.
So before I get to my good, the last really bad thing I have is, as much as I like this family and this house, I don't believe that there's no way off the island. I don't believe that they don't get off the island. I don't believe that they don't believe in electricity. She's cooking baked goods. Where's she getting the flour from? Like, where's she getting the eggs, the butter? Like,
right.
Yeah. I mean, you're on this weird island and you're acting very like Southern, Midwestern, but it's like, there's nothing on this island. There's no boats. There's no planes. I mean, it just makes no sense.
No fields of wheat. I don't think there's any chickens around.
Right. Yeah. Like he comes back like with a dead rabbit at one point in time, but clearly they were eating stuff that these yuppies would have ate. Right. They weren't eating like some like creepy rabbit stew where they're like, "Actually, I'll just starve." Yeah. I did not believe that at all. And then, okay. So good. All right, so last bad. I hated Act 1 and Act 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so good. It's a creepy idea.
Mm-hmm.
Ma and Pa and the kids. We've talked about how awesome they are, so I won't get into that. But I loved them. The pretty opening shot. It's fun. It like sets you in, like the flying stuff. It's got that 80s vibe of like, okay, the movie's starting. Let's slow burn in, and then like the fog comes in, and then they land. Love it.
Yeah.
Now here's where I'm going to slightly disagree with you. I loved Act 3.
Okay.
I
didn't dislike it. I just thought it felt weird.
It does feel weird pacing, because you have such a horrible Act 1 and Act 2.
Yeah.
That I love this final girl with a twist.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like she goes insane. And she joins them, and she's literally with them, and it could have ended there, and I would have loved that ending. Like, that would have been just awesome. Like, just got another member of the family. Like when, but then she's triggered in one of the most messed up scenes I've ever seen in a
with the mummified baby.
Yeah.
They tear its head off.
Although I would have loved Pa to come down and been like, okay, I'm going to cut this baby in half. And you can each have half.
That would have been great.
And then like do the real mother thing. But so messed up. And then it triggers her, and then she goes and kills. And now, why is it so easy for her now? I think it's because she's insane, and insane people get a kill. And
for sure.
In real life and in movies. Insane.
Well, if you're sane, if you're of the right mind, it should be hard to like just take someone's life.
Yep. So there's that. And that's really about it. So I hated the yuppies. I loved the family. Hated the first half of the movie. Although there were things in it I liked. Love love that final act of the movie, although it wasn't perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. And so it just kind of balances out into a meh.
Yeah. And I can see that. And that's probably how a lot of people have felt watching this movie. I just think the fighting over the mummified baby, like, is
puts
just
it just a little over for you.
Yeah, that's what makes the movie special to me. It's like, I
love,
haven't seen that anywhere else.
No, I loved. Can we pull up the picture? I think we're well into Schlock. Pretty in Pink.
Where she's getting ready for her 12th birthday party.
Yeah,
for Fanny's 12th birthday party.
Yeah, so this is the final girl. This is the woman who had the trauma, who flies there. She watched her husband get murdered. She watched all her friends get murdered, and now she's went full on insane and joined the family. And they've dressed her in this pink dress that matches Fanny's. And I'm just like, it does this pan up from her like white socks and shoes, and just she sells it like. Yeah. I mean, she does.
I think
really
they cast
job.
this actress specifically for this.
Yeah, like she would be so
guess.
much better in this than she was in the first half. Well, she wasn't awful in the first half. She was one of out of that whole group. She was one of the two I really liked. I hated all the men. Oh, her husband just. I was so happy when he got murdered. I was just like, can't.
Which
stand
she
this
totally
guy.
left him. He like gets stabbed in the eye, and he's like crawling out, and she's like, bye.
Right?
She did not stick around.
That's one of the few realistic things that would happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. We talked about if you're saying, I said it. If you're saying it should be hard to kill people. I feel like if my friends were getting picked off, if my spouse was getting picked off, like, I don't know. She's traumatized. And that's just what's a really weird part of this movie for me. I don't know if you noticed it or not. The opening shot and the ending shot, the prison, right? So the whole movie starts off where she's in like some sort of psych ward. But the camera is filmed in between, it's behind a chair. So what looks like bars of a prison cell are it's the back of a chair. Right. And then we find crib. Out that she's oh yeah, that's right. It's a crib. Well, then we find out she's in a psych ward, I believe. And then at the end, it's the back of a chair, but we have the same type of shot where it looks like a prison cell. And so clearly, right, this movie is supposed to be about like psychological trauma in some way. Right. Right. And I don't know, it was just so hard for me to follow that. Just that she goes crazy and then she goes extra crazy. Yeah, it was. And I think part of it's that there were too many victims. There were too many characters to follow. There should have been like 4 or 5, not 6. Because then you could have given more time to develop that through line of what she was up to. Yeah. Well, speaking of victims. Yeah, this was, so the baby did it for you. This is what did it for me. This is like, yes, I wish the movie were more like this. He's so proud of them. It's like, they're my big dollies. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so messed up. And then they go through and talk about where they find how they killed them, what they were doing. Like, this person was fishing here and he wanted to tell his friends about it. We couldn't have that. Yeah, I wish this would have been more of a midpoint. Yeah, this would have been perfect. Like if someone would have found it midpoint. The scarves, what a brilliant touch. Because she, in the beginning, she's like, I told you that scarf would look good on you. Yeah. And she's like, I'll knit you a scarf. Knits them for the victims. And they're what holds up the victims. They're like nooses. Oh, so yeah. Let's get into kind of what this is all based on really quick. Okay. Yeah. Let me show the picture here. Right. So this is the cover. Well, and it's based off of this famous painting. American Gothic is the name of the painting, and thus the name of the movie. Chris, you said that you know a little bit about this. I don't really know anything. It's a 1930 painting by Grant Wood. It is known as American Gothic, or it was inspired. Wow. Wood was inspired to paint what is now known as American Gothic House in Eldon, Iowa. So
the thing is that it was this architectural style called Carpenter Gothic.
Okay.
And from what I understood, and I could be totally wrong and chalking out the other end, is that he was kind of making fun of it like it's, not a super quality house, like just simple house, but it's got that ornate window. And
okay.
So it's almost kind of like schlock, like it's like someone, wearing a suit and tie but still wearing Crocs, right?
It's
like
poorly put together, but there is like something of interest in it,
right? Which is it feels like almost like a very middle class kind of, especially in like the 20th century thing. Now this is not a husband and wife. This is supposed to be a man and his grown daughter. So this would be representing as Pa and Fanny in the movie.
Okay.
In real life, that is Grant Wood's sister and his dentist, and they must have just saw the dentist and like, you look like an old farmer who's just been beaten with time and work and the sun. And
he looks like who's the guy that does Homer Simpson's voice?
Oh yeah, Hank or man, I can't.
Not Hank Azaria, the other guy.
No, it's Frank. It's Dan Castanella.
Castanella?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, but then it kind of took on a life of its own, and people read into it what they want, and there's different like mythological interpretations of it, and ideas of like Puritan work ethic, and just also that it's about mourning and death, so many different things. And then it's just an iconic image that's slightly creepy. It just is. Yeah. And so that whole vibe, and then you have like the whole idea of like that Midwest thing going on here, right? So that's the problem I have with this movie, is that when I think of American Gothic, I want like a Midwest farmer, and they could all be insane. I want more of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That feels more American Gothic to me than
think of the
this.
pitchfork in it. They have a bloody pitchfork. I don't think there's a pitchfork kill in this.
No, there's not. There should be. If you're calling a movie American Gothic, you have to have a pitchfork kill, and it should be a pitchfork used for hay.
Yeah,
there should be hay and cows and farm.
It's got to be farmers.
Yeah, it's not some weird dude pretending to be a farmer on an island.
Seattle isolationists.
Yeah. So weird. I just do not buy whoa, this was famous painting, and we got an old couple here. Let's call it American Gothic. Like, no, not.
Again, Hide and Shriek is a much better title, and they should have just had a picture of the whole family or something.
Yep. Yeah. Also, maybe we'll talk about this as the credits play out. I didn't really like a lot of the kills. I thought they were a
little underwhelming.
Half-assed. Yeah, I liked the idea of them, but like, okay, a giant swing and you cut and he falls. Okay. Or a jump rope, but then you don't see him actually do anything. You just find her hung later. Yeah,
they're trying to have the creepy, playful kills like a kid.
They should have like made him cooler and more iconic. And like, I did love when Ma, like, that girl never finishes her chores and then takes her 2 needles out and finishes killing Cynthia's husband.
Yeah,
man, that was the funny line, the one-liner that did it for me. I'm like, I want more of those kills.
Well, so speaking of kills, what do we have next week? I don't know why that transition.
Yeah, well, not in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, that's right.
In 2 weeks, we're going to switch it up a little bit. No horror this time. We're going to do Escape from New York.
Ooh, all right. I am looking forward to it. You can watch it for free on Tubi. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. It makes our hearts feel good. But until next time, I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous, and we've been compelled by Schlock. See you next week. Bye.